The sun was setting, and the city park was turning golden under the last light of the day. Birds were returning to their nests, and families were slowly leaving after their evening walks. In the middle of the park, a little girl named Ara ran toward the swings, laughing as her father followed behind. Her father, Armin, was a tall man in his 30s. He was known in the city not only because of his successful business but also for being a single father who gave all his love to his daughter. Even though he was a millionaire, he lived simply with Ara and always spent his evenings walking with her in the park. "Daddy, push me higher," Ara shouted from the swing. Armin smiled and pushed her gently, watching her hair fly in the wind. For a moment, everything seemed calm. But then, Ara stopped laughing. She was looking at something near the park bench under a large tree. "Daddy," she whispered, pointing with her small finger, "why is she sleeping here?" Armin turned his eyes and saw a young woman curled up on the bench. She looked tired and thin, her clothes old but clean. Her head rested on her arm, and her breathing was slow. She was not like the other people in the park who came for walks. Something about her felt different, almost lost. Armin's first thought was to take Ara away, but his daughter's innocent eyes were filled with worry. "Is she all right?" Ara asked again. Armin walked closer, holding his daughter's hand. As they approached, the woman stirred slightly but did not wake up. Her face showed signs of exhaustion, and it was clear she had not eaten well in days. Armin felt a pull in his heart. He was not a man who ignored people in need. Still, he hesitated. He had worked hard all his life, building his business after many struggles, and he had promised himself to protect his daughter from anything uncertain. But Ara tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, can we help her?" Her words broke his hesitation. He crouched down beside the bench and gently spoke. "Miss, are you all right?" The young woman slowly opened her eyes. They were soft but full of tiredness. She tried to sit up, startled at first, but then relaxed when she saw the little girl holding her father's hand. "I'm sorry," she said in a low voice, "I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just needed a place to rest." Her voice was weak, and her hands trembled slightly. Ara, with her pure heart, reached out and offered the woman a small biscuit from her pocket. "You can have this," she said with a smile. The woman's eyes watered, but she accepted it gently. "Thank you," she whispered. Armin watched silently, feeling something stir inside him. He could not just leave her here. The park would soon close, and the night air would be cold. Ara leaned closer to him and whispered, "Daddy, let's take her home." Armin was taken aback by the words. Home was their safe place. He had always been careful about who came near his daughter. But then he looked at the woman again. She was not dangerous. She was simply lost and tired, like someone who had walked too far and had no place left to go. "What's your name?" Armin asked kindly. The woman lowered her head and said softly, "My name is Sana." "Ara," Armin said, turning to his daughter, "you really want to help her?" Ara nodded with all the innocence in her eyes. "Yes, Daddy. She needs us." Armin took a deep breath. He had faced many business risks in his life, but this decision felt heavier. Still, he trusted his daughter's heart. He turned to Sana and said, "You cannot stay here tonight. Come with us. We have space at our home." Sana looked shocked. "I don't want to be a burden," she whispered. Armin shook his head. "It's not safe to stay here. Just for tonight. You will be safe with us." Sana's lips trembled, and for a moment she said nothing. Finally, with tears in her eyes, she nodded slowly. Armin held Era's hand with one side and offered the other to Sana, helping her stand. She was lighter than he expected, and her steps were weak. Together, they walked out of the park as the night began to spread across the city. For Armin, it was the beginning of something he did not fully understand. For Era, it was a simple act of kindness. And for Sana, it was the first time in a long while that someone had looked at her not as a stranger, but as a human being worth caring for. The car door closed, and the engine started. A new chapter was quietly opening, even if none of them realized it yet. The car ride was quiet. Era leaned against her father's arm, still holding on to Sana's hand as if she were afraid the woman might vanish. Sana sat nervously, her eyes lowered, uncertain if she had made the right choice by accepting their help. Armin drove steadily, glancing at her through the mirror now and then. He could see she was uneasy. He understood that feeling trusting strangers was never easy, but something in her silence told him she had nowhere else to go. When they reached the house, Era jumped out first. Their home was large, with tall windows and a wide gate. But inside, it felt warm, not like the cold mansions people usually imagined. The walls were painted in soft colors, and every corner showed signs of family life. Drawings Era made, books on the table, and fresh flowers in a vase. "Come in," Armin said politely. Sana stepped carefully inside, her eyes wide. She had not been in a place like this for years. The living room smelled of tea and wood polish, and there was a calm silence that wrapped around her. "You must be tired," Armin said, guiding her toward the couch. "Sit down. I'll bring some water." Era ran to the kitchen and returned carrying a small cushion. She placed it behind Sana's back. "Here, so you feel better," the little girl said brightly. Sana's lips curved into a soft smile. "Thank you," she whispered, touched by the child's kindness. Armin returned with water and some bread. Sana drank slowly, holding the glass with both hands. She tried not to show how hungry she was, but Armin noticed. Without saying much, he placed more food on the table. "Eat," he said gently. At first, Sana hesitated, but Era nudged her hand. "Daddy cooks good soup too." "You can try later," the girl said, making Sana laugh quietly. After a few bites, color returned to her face. She sat straighter, though her eyes still carried a heavy sadness. Armin watched silently for a moment before asking, "Where were you planning to stay tonight?" Sana lowered her gaze. "Nowhere," she said softly. "I've been moving from one place to another. I thought I could rest in the park before walking again." Armin frowned. He could tell she was hiding something, but he didn't press her. He only said, "You don't have to walk tonight. You can sleep in the guest room. Era will show you." Sana's hands tightened around the glass. "Why are you helping me?" she asked carefully. "You don't even know me." Armin leaned back. "Because my daughter asked me to. And because I don't want to leave someone outside when I have space inside. That's all." Sana's eyes glistened, but she said nothing more. "Come," Era said, grabbing her hand again. "I'll show you your room." The little girl led her upstairs, into a bright guest room with clean sheets and a soft bed. Sana stood at the door, stunned. She had not seen such comfort in years. "This is yours," Era said proudly, as if she had built the room herself. "You can rest here tonight." Sana stepped inside and touched the blanket, almost afraid it was not real. She turned to Era and whispered, "You are very kind." Ara grinned. Daddy says kindness makes the world better. You should believe it too. Sana's throat tightened at the words. She turned away quickly before her tears could fall. Later, when Ara was asleep, Armin stood by the window downstairs, thinking. He was not sure if he had done the right thing. Letting a stranger into his home carried risk. But something about Sana reminded him of his own struggles from the past. He had once known the feeling of having nothing. Maybe that was why he could not turn away. As he stood there, he heard soft footsteps. Sana came down the stairs quietly, holding the blanket around her shoulders. I wanted to say thank you, she said, her voice low. Armin nodded. Rest. That's all you need for now. She looked at him for a moment, as if trying to read his heart. Then she gave a small bow and returned upstairs. Armin stayed at the window long after, watching the night spread across the city. He knew something was different now. A simple evening in the park had brought a stranger into their lives. And somehow, deep inside, he felt that this was only the beginning of a story he could not yet see. The morning sun entered through the tall windows of the house. Ara's laughter echoed from the dining room as she set small plates on the table. She loved mornings because it meant breakfast with her father. But today felt different. There was someone new in the house. Sana came down the stairs slowly, her steps careful. She wore the same clothes as yesterday, and though her hair was brushed back neatly, she still looked nervous. She paused when she saw the bright table and the child waving at her. Good morning, Ara said cheerfully. Come sit with us. Sana hesitated, but Armin spoke calmly. Join us. There is enough food. She nodded and took a seat at the corner of the table. The smell of bread, tea, and fruit filled the air. Sana looked at the spread with wide eyes. It had been a long time since she had seen a table full of food in front of her. Ara placed a slice of bread on her plate. Here. Daddy says breakfast is the most important meal. Sana smiled faintly. Thank you. As they ate, Ara asked questions in her curious way. Where do you come from? Do you like tea or juice? Do you have a favorite color? Sana answered softly, her voice gentle but unsure. I come from another town. I like tea. My favorite color is blue. Ara clapped her hands. Mine too. Armin listened quietly, sipping his tea. He could see how his daughter's innocence was slowly making Sana relax. Her shoulders lowered, and a small warmth returned to her face. After breakfast, Ara insisted on showing Sana the garden behind the house. The flowers were in full bloom, and butterflies danced around. Ara picked a small yellow flower and placed it in Sana's hand. You should smile more, Ara said simply. You look pretty when you smile. Sana's eyes softened, and she bent down to hug the child lightly. You are very sweet, she whispered. From the window, Armin watched them. He had expected Sana to remain distant, but Ara's bright spirit was already breaking the walls around her. He could see that Sana was still hiding something, but he decided not to push her yet. She needed time. Later in the day, Armin went to his office in the city, leaving Ara at home with Sana. Though he was worried at first, he trusted his daughter's instinct. Ara had never shown such attachment to anyone so quickly. At home, Ara kept Sana busy with simple things. She asked her to read a storybook aloud, then invited her to help water the plants in the garden. Though Sana seemed unsure, she followed along, and slowly her laughter began to appear. When Armin returned in the evening, he found them sitting on the carpet, building a small house from blocks. Aero looked up proudly. Daddy, Sana is really good at this. She made the roof strong. Sana looked embarrassed, but Armin smiled. That's good. It seems you had a nice day. Sana nodded quietly. Yes. Ara has been kind to me. At dinner, Ara insisted Sana sit beside her. The room was filled with warmth as the three of them ate together. For a moment, it looked like a family scene, though none of them said it out loud. After dinner, when Ara went to bed, Armin stayed in the living room with Sana. The air was quiet except for the sound of the clock. You don't have to tell me everything now, Armin said slowly. But I need to know one thing. Do you have someone looking for you? Family? Friends? Sana lowered her gaze. Her hands trembled slightly. No, I don't have anyone. The truth in her voice carried weight. Armin did not ask further. He only said, then you are safe here. Take your time. When you are ready, you can tell me more. For the first time, Sana met his eyes directly. There was a flicker of trust, though faint. She gave a small nod. That night, as she lay in the guest room bed, Sana stared at the ceiling. She thought about the kindness she had received in just one day. It felt unreal. A child's innocence and a father's quiet strength had given her a place she never expected. She whispered softly to herself, maybe this is a new beginning. Downstairs, Armin looked at the closed guest room door and wondered if his decision at the park had changed not only Sana's life, but his own as well. Days passed, and Sana slowly settled into the rhythm of the house. She helped Aero with her drawings, watered the flowers, and sometimes even prepared tea when Armin returned from work. She still spoke little, but her silence was no longer heavy with fear. One evening, Armin came home later than usual. He found Aero sitting on the sofa, coloring a picture, while Sana was carefully folding clothes in the corner. You don't have to do that, Armin said, placing his bag down. You are a guest here. Sana shook her head. I can't just sit and watch. Let me at least do something useful. Armin studied her for a moment. He saw that she was trying to give back in the only way she could. All right, he said softly. But don't overwork yourself. That night, after Ara had gone to bed, Armin made tea and invited Sana to sit on the balcony. The night sky was clear, full of stars. For a while, they sat in silence. Then Armin asked, Sana, you've been here for a while now. I respect your privacy, but I feel there's more to your story. Maybe if you share, I can help. Sana held the teacup with both hands, her eyes on the stars. At first, she did not reply. Her lips trembled, and she looked as if she might refuse. But then she whispered, I used to have a home. A family. But everything changed when my father passed away. We lost the house, and I had no one left to depend on. Armin listened quietly, not interrupting. I tried to work, she continued, her voice breaking. But it was never enough. Slowly, I lost even the little I had. I kept moving, looking for a place where I could start again, but it never worked. That is how I ended up in the park. Her words carried deep pain, yet she spoke them with calm acceptance. Armin felt a heaviness in his chest. He had once struggled too, though his journey had been different. He knew the feeling of building life from nothing. You've been through a lot, he said gently. Sana lowered her eyes. I didn't want anyone to pity me. That's why I kept silent. But your daughter, she made me feel human again. She doesn't look at me as a stranger. She just looks at me like a friend. Armin smiled faintly. That's how Era is. She sees people with her heart. For a long while, they sat in silence, listening to the night sounds. Sana felt lighter, as if sharing even a small part of her story had lifted some weight off her. The next morning, Era bounced into the guest room with excitement. Sana, come with us today. Daddy is taking me to the bookstore. You'll like it there. Sana hesitated but finally agreed. At the store, Era ran from shelf to shelf, choosing storybooks. Armin noticed that Sana stood quietly by the poetry section, her fingers brushing the covers gently. Do you like reading? He asked. She nodded shyly. I used to. Books were my escape when life was heavy. Without saying more, Armin picked one of the books she was looking at and handed it to her. Then keep this. Her eyes widened. I can't take it? Yes, you can, he said firmly. Consider it a gift. Sana held the book close, her throat tightening. For a moment, she could not speak. Later that evening, when Era was asleep, Armin noticed Sana sitting in the living room, reading the book under the soft light. Her face looked calmer than before, almost peaceful. But as the days continued, Armin also noticed something else. Sometimes Sana would look out the window for a long time, as if afraid someone might appear. At other times, her hands trembled when she heard loud footsteps outside. He began to wonder, was she hiding more than just her sadness? Was there something or someone in her past that still followed her? Armin did not ask that night, but deep inside, he knew the truth was not complete yet. Sana had shared part of her story, but not all of it. And whatever the missing part was, it might soon reach their quiet home. The days in Armin's house grew warmer for Sana. She smiled more often, read stories to Era, and even started helping in the kitchen. For Era, it felt natural to have her around. She no longer saw Sana as a guest but as part of their little family. One afternoon, Era and Sana were baking cookies together. The smell filled the kitchen, and their laughter echoed through the house. Armin stood at the doorway, watching them. For the first time in many years, his house felt alive. But that evening, while Armin was locking the gate, he noticed something strange. Across the street, a man stood near a lamppost, staring in their direction. As soon as Armin's eyes met his, the man walked away quickly. Armin felt uneasy. He brushed it off at first, thinking it might just be coincidence. But the next day, when he returned from work, he noticed the same figure at the corner of the street. That night, Armin sat in the living room with Sana after Era had gone to bed. He studied her carefully. Sana, he said slowly, is there someone looking for you? Her face froze. She set her teacup down, her hands trembling slightly. Why do you ask? Armin leaned forward. Because I've seen someone near the house. A man. He seems to be watching. Sana's eyes filled with fear. She looked away, unable to meet his gaze. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then she whispered, I hoped this day would not come. Armin's jaw tightened. Tell me the truth. Who is he? Sana took a deep breath. Before I met you, I worked at a small shop. The owner was kind at first, but later he became cruel. He took away my wages, threatened me when I tried to leave. When I finally escaped, I knew he would not let it go easily. He sent people to find me. I have been running ever since. Her voice shook as she spoke. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I kept moving, I could disappear. But maybe he has found me again. Armin's fists clenched. He could see the terror in her eyes, and it made his protective side rise. You should have told me earlier, he said firmly. I didn't want to bring trouble to your home, Sana whispered, tears shining in her eyes. You and Ara gave me peace. I didn't want to lose it. Armin sighed deeply. He could not blame her for being afraid. But now the situation was different. If danger was near, he had to act. Listen, he said calmly, you are not alone anymore. If that man or anyone else tries to harm you, they will have to face me first. Do you understand? Sana looked at him, surprised by the strength in his voice. For a moment, she saw not only a protector but someone who truly cared. The next day, Armin increased the security around his house. He spoke to the guards at the gate, asked them to watch carefully, and even adjusted the cameras. He wanted to make sure Ara and Sana were safe. But Sana still carried unease in her heart. Every time she looked out the window, she feared seeing that shadow again. Ara noticed it too. One evening, as Sana tucked Ara into bed, the little girl asked, "Why do you look sad these days?" Sana brushed her hair gently. Sometimes the past follows us, Ara. But your father is strong. He will keep us safe. Ara smiled sleepily. Then don't worry. Daddy always keeps his promises. Those words stayed with Sana long after the child fell asleep. She sat by the window, holding the book Armin had given her, and wondered if she could ever truly be free from the shadow that followed her. Armin, meanwhile, stood outside near the gate once more. Across the street, he saw the same man lingering again. This time, Armin did not look away. He stepped forward, his eyes hard, silently warning the stranger. The man quickly disappeared into the dark, but Armin knew this was not the end. Inside the house, Sana whispered a silent prayer. She had found kindness and a home she never expected. But now, the past was reaching for her again. And Armin silently promised himself one thing: he would not let anyone take away the peace he had built for his daughter, or the safety that Sana had finally found under his roof. The next few days passed under a cloud of tension. Though Armin tried to keep life normal for Ara, he never let his guard down. Every time he stepped outside, he scanned the street, watching for the man who had been following their home. Sana noticed his careful movements. She felt both grateful and guilty. Grateful because he cared enough to protect her, guilty because her troubles had entered his peaceful life. One morning, while Ara was busy drawing in the living room, Sana spoke quietly to Armin. Maybe I should leave. If I go far away, that man will stop coming near your house. Armin looked at her sharply. No. Running again will not solve this. You've been running for too long. It's time to stand and face it. But I don't want you or Ara to be in danger because of me, Sana whispered. Armin's voice grew firm. Listen, Sana. You are not alone anymore. This house is not only a shelter for me and Ara. It is your shelter too now. Whoever is trying to scare you will have to face me first. Sana's eyes filled with tears at his words, but she nodded slowly. That evening, Armin decided to act. He contacted one of his trusted friends, a lawyer, and explained the situation. The lawyer advised him to file a formal complaint and gather evidence if the man appeared again. Armin also arranged for a security guard to patrol near the house. He did not want to take any chances. The following day, Armin stayed home instead of going to his office. He wanted to see with his own eyes if the stranger would return. By noon, he spotted the same man standing at the corner again. This time, Armin did not wait. He walked straight toward him. The man shifted uncomfortably as Armin approached. "Why are you watching my house?" Armin demanded. The man looked down, avoiding his eyes. "I was told to find a woman. Her name is Sana. My boss wants her back." Armin's face hardened. "She is not your boss's property. Tell him to stay away. If he tries to harm her, he will face the law and me." The man muttered something under his breath and walked away quickly. Armin stood there, his heart pounding, but his decision firm. He would not let fear control them. When he returned home, Sana was waiting nervously. She had seen everything from the window. "What did he say?" she asked, her voice trembling. Armin told her the truth. Sana sank into a chair, holding her face in her hands. "He will not stop. That man, he never lets go once he sets his eyes on something." Armin placed a hand on the table firmly. "Then we will fight him the right way. I've already spoken to a lawyer. If he comes near you again, we will go to the police together. You don't have to carry this alone anymore." Sana looked up at him, her eyes wet but full of a new kind of strength. "Why are you doing all this for me?" Armin held her gaze. "Because Ara believes in you. Because I believe you deserve a chance to live without fear. And because no one should have to suffer for wanting freedom." For the first time, Sana felt hope rise in her chest. The weight she had carried for so long seemed lighter. That night, Ara crawled onto Sana's lap with her favorite storybook. "Daddy says you're staying," she said happily. "Now we can be like a family." Sana's arms tightened around the child, her heart overwhelmed. She whispered softly, "Yes, Ara. Like a family." Armin watched the scene from across the room. His heart, too, felt something he had not expected when he first saw her on that park bench. It was not just about kindness anymore. It was about connection. The shadows of the past were still near, but in that moment, he knew one thing clearly. He would protect these two with everything he had. Whatever storm was coming, he was ready to face it. The morning sky was heavy with clouds, and the air carried the weight of a storm. Armin stood by the gate, his eyes sharp. He knew the trouble would not stay away for long. Sana's past was too close now. Inside, Ara was busy playing with her dolls, unaware of the danger. Sana tried to keep a calm face, but her heart was restless. Every sound from outside made her flinch. By afternoon, the storm finally arrived, not in the sky, but at their doorstep. A loud knock shook the front door. Armin opened it to find two men standing there, one of them the same man who had been watching from the street. "We don't want trouble," the man said firmly. "Just hand over Sana. Our boss wants her back." Armin's jaw tightened. "She is not yours to take. Leave now before you regret it." The men exchanged glances, then stepped forward as if to force their way in. But Armin did not move back. His voice turned cold. "One more step, and I call the police. I already know who you work for, and I have evidence of you stalking this house. Do you want to spend the night in a cell?" The man hesitated. He had not expected such confidence. Armin's eyes burned with a fire that made even strong men think twice. Finally, the men cursed under their breath and walked away, muttering that this was not over. Armin closed the door firmly and turned to see Sana standing at the end of the hall, her face pale. "They will come back," she whispered. Then let them, Armin said calmly. We will face them together. You are not running anymore. That evening, Armin contacted the police and filed an official complaint. He explained the threats and the stalking. With his influence and resources, the matter was taken seriously. Officers promised to investigate the man Sana had worked for and provide protection if needed. For Sana, it was the first time someone had stood for her in such a strong way. All her life she had faced hardship alone, but now there was a shield between her and the storm. Days passed, and the men never returned. Perhaps the police had warned them, or perhaps Armin's courage had broken their will. Slowly, the fear in Sana's heart began to fade. One evening, as the golden light of sunset filled the living room, Ara curled up beside Sana with her dolls. Now you won't leave us, right? She asked innocently. Sana hugged her tightly. No, Ara. I won't leave you. Armin overheard the words and felt a warmth inside him. For a long time, his world had been only about protecting his daughter. But now, his heart opened to something more. Sana had become part of their lives in a way he could not ignore. Later that night, when Ara was asleep, Armin and Sana sat on the balcony again. The stars shone quietly above. You gave me more than shelter, Sana said softly. You gave me safety, hope, and a reason to believe again. I don't know how to repay you. Armin looked at her steadily. You don't need to repay me. Just stay. That is enough. For the first time, Sana allowed herself to smile fully, without fear behind it. She felt like the walls of her past had finally broken, replaced by the gentle strength of this new home. The storm that once followed her had passed. What remained was peace. In the days that followed, life in the house grew brighter. Ara had someone to share her laughter with, Armin had a partner in raising his daughter, and Sana finally had a place where she belonged. The memory of the park bench still lived in her mind. She had been a stranger with nowhere to go, and yet a child's innocent words had changed everything. Daddy, why is she sleeping here? Ara had asked. Those words had opened the door to a new chapter, one where kindness defeated fear, where trust healed wounds, and where a broken past gave way to a hopeful future. For Armin, it was proof that sometimes the smallest voices could guide the biggest choices. For Sana, it was a second chance at life. For Ara, it was simply the joy of having more love around her. And together, they stepped into their new beginning, no longer three separate lives, but one family under the same roof.